Okay, so today's first video, today is Tuesday, January 22nd, 2019. Today's first video topic request is from Taylor Wolf. And she's asking me to speak on sexual assaults, women crying wolf, not to be confused with legitimate accusations. And we've had a lot of this in the news here in the last, few years, really. But anything from the Kavanaugh case that was such a huge deal to Sylvester Stallone being accused of, doing this kind of thing, and it's everywhere, all at once. I mean, these women are coming out of the woodwork and making these accusations some many, many, many years after the alleged incident allegedly occurred. And if somebody, man or woman or child, is sexually assaulted and or raped, battered, beaten, verbally abused, these things are horrible. And these legitimate transgressions do happen all the time, and they are absolutely horrible. One of the worst crimes against another human being that you could do, in my opinion. And they need to be reported. And here's the problem, okay? It's so obvious. And I'm not saying that if something like that were to happen to you, that you would not suffer psychological damage, and that you may even repress or bury it in the back of your mind to a point where maybe almost in your reality it didn't happen. That kind of thing happens too. I'm not talking about that. But if you want something done about it, if you want it to be handled properly, you have two things fighting against you as soon as this alleged incident happens. Number one, you have what's called the statute of limitations, and that varies from state to state. But when you're talking about rape and or sexual assault, generally it's around 20 to 25 years after the fact. So if today you were raped, God forbid, 20 to 25, I think in Ohio it's 25 years, I think, is the statute of limitations. What that means is you have 25 years to bring it to law enforcement's attention. But the longer that goes without being reported, the longer out that is, the more evident and prominent the second issue becomes, and that is a lack of evidence, the lack of ability to obtain said evidence. Now, obviously, there are guys, there are women, there are people, offenders that will video the sick shit for their own pleasure. That kind of thing does happen. And it even happened here back in 2013 to a guy locally in Southern Ohio that I used to work with. And the guy had photographed it. He had photographed himself with these young girls, and I think maybe even videoed it. I'm not sure about that, but he did photograph it, and he kept it. Because a lot of serial killers, serial rapists, people of that nature, they like to keep what would be referred to as, as trophies. So, bearing that hasn't happened, however, that didn't take place, and let's just assume that it did not, that there was no evidence, physical, like there was no video or photographic evidence at all. You have forensic evidence, but you only have that for so long. A rape kit can only be conducted and useful, I think, maybe, a couple days, 2 or 3 days maybe after the fact, because, I'm not going to get graphic about it, but that stuff deteriorates. That evidence is very, very fragile, and you don't have very long at all. So even though the statute of limitations is a very long period of time, 20, 25 years, evidence not so much. Again, bearing that there was no photographic evidence or video evidence. If you don't have that, you don't have much, sadly. And that's the thing. Now, if you come out like Christine Ford 30, 35 years later, and you have no facts at all, you can't get your facts straight. You don't know where you were. You don't know who was there. You don't know where you went after. You don't know anything. I mean, how are you supposed to prosecute that? Honestly, in all fairness, because the accused, they deserve a fair trial. Everybody does. Why? Because innocent people do get locked up. It does happen. I know you don't want to think that, but it does. It happens. Imagine that you were falsely accused of something this horrendous, and your ass is taken to state or federal prison for 20, 30 fucking years, and you sat there knowing I did not do this. So that does happen. That's why we deserve a fair trial. And you just that's not even possible when you've waited that long. And again, I'm not attacking somebody necessarily. It's not what I'm doing, but I mean, look, you got to be reasonable about these things a little bit. Come on. I mean, that, 3 days later, 3 weeks, 3 years, sure, okay, that's easier to work with. 30, 35, no, come on. It's not even doable. And people get accused of these things falsely all the time. That happens. That's why a lot of them, again, get locked up. Decades later, they're pardoned. Because it comes out that, yeah, they really were innocent. So whoever accuses you of such a heinous crime, knowing that you didn't do it, that's just as appalling to me. And whoever you are, you should be penalized. You should be locked up. Because not only can this person go to jail, they stand to lose everything they have, everything they worked for, their career, their money, their wife or husband, their children, everything, their freedom, everything, and their reputation, their credibility. Even if they're proven to be innocent, you know as well as I do that for the rest of their days, they're going to be looked upon as a monster when they weren't. Now, again, if the accused really did do this, fuck them. Then they're a despicable human being. The issue being, how do we decipher when that much time has elapsed? You can't. You can't. So, it's a horrible thing, and it's a delicate topic. But, right is right. And there's only so much you can do when you wait, 15, 20, even into 30 some years, 40 years. I mean, there's just, wow. I mean, there's really just not a whole lot you can do. And, the timing on some of this stuff is suggestive, to say the least. And people do that too. People, will accuse somebody and try to extort money from them, hush money, even if they really didn't do it, So that's all.